today I interview Tyler Hall. What an amazing soul. He shares his accidental CEO journey from documentary filmmaking to coaching and creative consulting. He talked about the importance of strategy and beliefs in building a successful coaching business. And Tyler also talked about common misconceptions about marketing and branding for coaches and digital entrepreneurs. He introduces the 5W equation, something you definitely want to hear about. That's for creating effective messaging. Tyler reflects on the needs for a strong entrepreneur mindset and the challenges that imposter syndrome bring through your journey. He also shares some lessons from his unique upcoming book, All the Places I've Actually Went, and advice on entrepreneurs starting out. This is a very enlightening conversation. I had a lot of fun talking to Tyler, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy it too. Let's dive in. Welcome to the Accidental CEO podcast, where we bridge the gap between the creativity you love and the CEO mindset you need. I'm your host, Nada Salvatore, wedding photographer and business educator. Find full show notes and resources at accidentalceopod.com. Let's get into today's episode. Welcome to the Accidental CEO podcast. Today I have Tyler Hall here with me. He's the owner of Live Bigger Coaching Creative Consulting Agency, which means we're going to have a lot of great tips for you guys in all kinds of areas. He also has an amazing story that I'm excited to share with you guys. Welcome, Tyler, to the podcast.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, we are excited to have you. So let's start by just telling your story. Tell us your accidental CEO story and maybe a little bit around that. If we need to know more, give us some context of who you are, what do you do now, and where did that path started for you?
Yeah, absolutely. It is 100% an accidental CEO story. At the time, I was living in Chicago. I was just out of college. I had actually graduated with an undergrad degree in documentary filmmaking. I thought I was going to go be a filmmaker. I thought I was going to chase that dream. Realized that I didn't like writing grants for funding to make the movies. It was a lot of like grunt work that goes into the actual production of films, and it's not as glamorous as Hollywood makes it out to be. And so I was living in Chicago at the time, and I took a really terrible job working. I was working as a legal videographer for like recording depositions, which kind of sounds cool, but it was not, because I was always like in rooms and they were always talking about like insurance fraud and like the most boring court cases you could ever imagine. And I remember one day I was actually working on a project on one of the cases, and the witness didn't show up. So it was me and the court reporter. We got stuck at this law office for 2 hours because that's how long they bill us for. So they can keep us for 2 hours.
Yeah.
And the witness didn't show up. And so it was just me and this random court reporter sitting in a room. So in 2 hours, we had the most spiritually awakening conversation ever. She had been a court reporter for many years and was making a career transition into coaching. And we started to talk about life and philosophy and the meaning of life and purpose and all of these like big things. And she goes, I think you would make a fantastic coach. Now, mind you, I grew up in Texas, and the only reference of coaching I had at the time was like a football coach.
Right.
And so I was like, what is it? Like, no, I'm not a sports person. I'm not even athletic to save my life. Like, I can't be a coach. And she laughed at me and she goes, no, not that type of coach, like a life coach or a business coach or, a health coach, something like that. And so she introduced me to this world that I didn't even know existed. And I got certified. Like she sent me to this workshop. She said, you got to check it out. I got really into coaching, and I knew that was the career that was going to make my heart sing for the rest of my life. At the time, I thought I could just become a coach. Nobody told me that when you go out to build a coaching, I didn't even know I was building a business. Like, I just thought I was going to go be a coach. And then I found out very quickly holy moly, I have to build a business. Like I have to learn how to market, learn how to brand, do all of these kind of things. And I felt really blessed because of my film background and going to art school where they taught me all about personal branding. They taught me, how to use cameras, how to do social media stuff. Like those were classes that I took in college. And so I landed into this coaching space, realized, oh, this is bigger than just becoming a coach. This is about building a business and creating your personal brand and doing all of that identity work. And so over the course of like the last 5.5 years, I've slowly just kind of evolved into now being like the creative coach and now helping other coaches and digital entrepreneurs and like course creators build out their personal brands, do all of the creative work. And that's kind of my journey. It was like I started thinking I was going to be a health coach, thinking I was going to teach people how to love themselves. And then I turned into now being like the creative coach, the guy who helps people with marketing, messaging, and really also the mindset, because I think it's twofold. I think you need strategy. And then I also think you need belief in yourself.
Amen. I definitely believe on that as well. That's amazing. What was it on that conversation with this person that made you realize this is something I would like to do? This is something that I think I'll be good at. What was part of that? What drove that?
I think it was the impact. Like she talked so much about how much impact that you can make in other people's lives. And I think for a lot of entrepreneurs who are pursuing passions, we are driven by impact. You know, whether you're, a coach or trying to sell a course or like yourself, a photographer, like there's passion that comes first. And so we're motivated by the passion. We're motivated by the impact that we can bring to the table. And when she was talking about coaching, I was like, that is the most fulfilling career I've ever heard about. And at the time, I was on my own personal journey trying to find the career that was going to make my heart sing. And I mean, coaching, I got into it and I just exploded. And I was like, yes, this is what I'm so passionate about. This is what I love. And I was driven to make an impact, to make a difference. And that's what really sparked me that day when we were talking about coaching.
I love that. Was there ever a moment in this journey where you were like, I don't know, do I have everything that I need to be coaching other people? Is there imposter syndrome kind of came into play at any point during that journey for you?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I want it like, even still to this day, I don't think you ever completely lose the imposter syndrome. I just think you get to like learn how to control it a little bit more. It's
Yeah.
still there. It's always still there. I go into meetings sometimes and I'm like pitching myself and I'm like, who am I to be pitching myself and my services like that? We can't escape imposter syndrome, but we can learn how to live with it. We can learn how to work with it. We can befriend the imposter syndrome feelings, but definitely early on in my journey, I remember when I started to pivot and I went from, because again, I started as a health coach. I was doing like body positivity work. I was doing, like ditch the diet mentality type of stuff. And I was doing intuitive mindful eating. And then I had coaches coming up to me and they were like, Tyler, you're really good at the marketing. You just understand how this all works together. Can you help me? And so that's what started to create the pivot. Was I just started like friends were reaching out to me in the coaching space and they were like, can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? And I was like, sure, yeah, absolutely. I just kept saying yes. Like that was a big thing. I was like, I'll just say yes and we'll figure it out. But early on, I remember I was I had brought on 6 or 7 clients that I was working privately with.
Hmm.
And I had a moment where I was like, oh my God, I'm growing. This is scary. I can't do this. And I actually gave into imposter syndrome at that time. And I ended up going and saying, I need to get more experience as a business coach. And I ended up getting a full time job as a business coach in somebody else's business because I thought I needed more experience. I thought I needed to learn more. And so that was the moment when imposter syndrome kicked my butt and I like gave up pursuing my own venture for a little while because I went in and started working in somebody else's business because I was like I just want to get more experience. I want to feel more confident. And that's why I think this business is like in order to be a good CEO, you have to not only have the skills, but you also need to have the confidence. You have to have that inner like strength to do this.
So, in your experience, what are some of the most common misconceptions that coaches and digital entrepreneurs have about just the marketing and the branding when it comes to starting their business?
Well, I think one of the biggest misconceptions is it's going to be easy. And here's the thing, it's not their fault. It's not their fault that they have this belief that it's going to be easy. Because if you open up Facebook, if you open up Instagram, if you open up any social media platform, there there's all of the ads that are saying how I scaled, my business from 0 to 6 figures in 6 months, like here's my proven system. And we're vulnerable when we're starting a business, when we're wanting to grow, when we're wanting to make more money, we're vulnerable and we fall for these ads. We fall for this like great marketing that tells them, "Oh, I did this in 6 months." But what that story is not telling them is the 6 years earlier that they spent developing their skills and getting, it's like there is no such thing as an overnight success, even though all of the marketing nowadays is like advertised as like I'm going to get you from 0 to 100K in 6 months if you just follow this system. It's not going to happen. I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions that new entrepreneurs face is that it's going to be an easy path. There is no such thing as easy.
Yes, hard work is the easiest path you're going to
Yep,
have when it comes to
absolutely.
success.
Yep.
What is talking about messaging? What is the main message of your agency to the people that it serves?
Well, I think my biggest message is to get to know yourself, to really have like before you go out and you try to master the marketing, master your message, master yourself, master your identity because there's so much freedom in entrepreneurship. There's so much like, and this is in any business. Like I was thinking about you as a photographer, you could photograph so many different things and make money as a photographer, but you really have to understand what is it that you love to do? What is it getting into alignment with what feels good to you and what feels right to you? And so to me it's like you have to know who you are, you have to know what you do, you have to know who you do it for, how you do it, and why you're the perfect person to be doing this. I call that the 5W equation, and that's the foundation that all entrepreneurs have to kind of answer before they go out and they start to market. But we always want to immediately try to market when in reality, we really need to get clear on who we are first.
Awesome. Let's repeat for them the 5 W's because I think that's amazing.
Yep. Yep. So it's who are you? So who are you for me? Like, who are you as a coach? What type of coach are you? What do you do? So that is like your method, your formula, like your offerings, things like that. How do you do it? For me in coaching, that comes down to like again, like what is my methodology? What are my products? What are my offerings? Things like that. Who do I serve? Like who is my ideal client? That is really big. And then why? Why are you the perfect person to be out there fixing this problem, doing this type of work, offering this type of service? That's the 5 W's.
Perfect. Yeah, very good framework for people to try to clarify their message a little bit more. I like that a lot. So you've mentioned that at some point in your journey, you made a significant investment in a coaching certification that didn't quite prepare you for the entrepreneur aspect of your business. So looking back, what is some advice that you can give somebody that is considering a similar path?
Well, that's a great question. Most coaching certifications do a really good job of teaching you how to become a coach. They teach you, my training taught me how to be an excellent coach, not so much how to build the business. And you know, I'm not here to say they did have a business portion of the program. Looking back, I think for me in my journey was I wasn't ready to take on the entrepreneurial role yet. And I think that's a big thing when people start like their passion projects, their side hustles. You have to be ready to take on the entrepreneurial identity. And that's something that they didn't necessarily teach you is how do you start to think like an entrepreneur? How do you start to think like somebody who is in business versus just following a passion? Because again, I got into coaching because I loved it. And I was like, yes, this is the thing that makes my heart sing. And I'm so excited to go make all of this impact. And I was focused on passion. And at some point, there comes a time when you have to switch over to profit and you have to start to think like, how do I monetize the business? How do I actually monetize what I'm doing? Because that's the difference is that switch between passion and profit. And I think most people, when they get into their passion projects, it starts from passion and they really struggle with the profit side because they're just not thinking like a business person. And that's a skill that you have to develop.
Yeah, I think, and even if you look at universities, how universities prepare you for any kind of work, there is not a lot, if any, teaching when it comes to how you run your own business, unless you're going to business school, which even then I've heard from a lot of people that have actually got the degree that when it comes to real life, there's a lot of things that are still missing on that curriculum. So I think it doesn't, a lot of the courses that will teach you the craft and the skills, a lot of times are missing that part of guiding you through your journey with entrepreneurship. And we have to kind of just get out there and get going and find coaches that will teach you in that arena to kind of complement the skill learning that you have done in the past few years. So it's definitely something that we have to piece it together. Unfortunately, at this point in time, in very few places you can find kind of everything together, and definitely a skill that has to be. I feel like the earlier you learn the business side of things, the more successful you're going to be, and the earlier you can reach more people with the services that you're offering. Like you said, when we think about passion projects, we think about helping people, connecting with people, serving people. But if you're not making money, you're not going to be able to do what you love for much longer. It's a mindset change. Start seeing money as something good that's actually going to help you, help more people, and all that. So that comes back to mindset and having, well-rounded skills for everything.
And really changing your whole relationship with money. Really diving in and doing that inner work. Again, I'm always coming back to the inner work because it starts here. It starts in you. And that inner work of what is my relationship with money? What are my family stories around money? What are my beliefs around money? Those were doing that type of work was so transformative in helping me start to reshape how I look at money and how I look at making money because I grew up in a family where our belief was you have to work really really hard, and even after you work really really hard there's still not a lot of money to be made. And I just grew up in that type of energy. And so it was really hard when I first started my business because I was working really, really hard, not making a lot of money. And through unpacking that and changing my relationship with money, I've been able to say, you know what? I want to work easy and earn more. I want this. How can I press the easy button in my business and still earn more? And that's a question that I'm constantly evolving on and growing on. And I think that's another big point with all of this is the endless growth, the endless transformation that comes when you choose to be an entrepreneur. You're never finished. You never reach a point of I am fully done, I am fully capable. Like there's so much personal growth that goes into this type of work.
Yeah, you shouldn't. If you feel like you're there, you probably are in the wrong path.
You're not. Yeah. Yeah.
Have you noticed with your change in mindset about money, have you noticed that you have been able to bleed into the people around you and seen a change in how they see money?
A little bit. So like with especially with my sister, like she's 22, and we're actually talking more about money now. We're talking about, like, she came up to me the other day and she goes, I don't know where my money goes.
Ah,
And she's 22, like nobody at 22 is really like there are a few people who pay attention at 22, but most 22-year-olds are not paying attention to where their money goes. And so the fact that she came up to me and was like, I don't know where my money's going. Can we figure this out? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. Because, it's like, I used to ignore money. I used to just be like, oh, it, doesn't matter. Or like my go-to line was like, money isn't happiness, but money is freedom. Money, my whole relationship with money has changed. But I think what also, when you start to, since we're talking about relationships here, what has actually changed is my relationships. Like I am developing new relationships with different types of people. And so that has been, I think, one of the most unexpected things is when you start to work on yourself, when you do adapt the entrepreneurial mindset and you start to hustle and you start to, work 7 days a week because you're full of passion and inspiration and you want, you are on a mission to achieve something bigger in your life, like your relationships are going to change. The friends that you used to hang out with are no longer going to want to hang out with you. And really, you're not going to really want to hang out with them anymore either, because your values have changed. How you view life is different now. And so it's like, it's huge because it's not just about mastering your marketing or figuring out the business systems. Y'all, I think that part is the easy part of actually building the business. I think the hard part is all of the changes, the personal changes, the growth, the overcoming fear, becoming confident, getting through the imposter syndrome, doing the inner work, that deeper work, really changing your identity. That's the hard part. And there's a lot of change that happens when you say, you know what, I'm all in and I'm going there. And like your friends aren't going to understand it, your family's not going to understand it, and that's why you need to find people who do understand it. That's why you need to build that community.
yeah, it definitely changes who are you around,
Mhm.
your circle. And I feel like it does, as you change your mindset and you start speaking more and you speak differently of money, it does ended up influencing some of the people around you that want to also change their mindset. Some people are going to get stuck on their ways, and that's okay. And that's maybe somebody that will not be in your future, if you continue to grow and evolve. Today's episode of the Accidental CEO podcast is sponsored by the ultimate all-in-one lab for professional photographers, Miller's Professional Imaging. They are the largest professional lab organization in the United States. And for more than 50 years, Miller's has provided the highest quality products, customer service, and technologies in the industry, which have contributed to becoming the preferred lab of photographers nationwide.
Miller's is my number one choice when it comes to products for my clients. Everybody loves the quality and the speedy delivery. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Let's get back to it.
So you talk about this mindset change when it comes to money. I have a very clear memory of when that changed for me. What was it that helped you change your mindset about money? Was it a course? Was it a book that you read? Was it a conversation that you had? Do you remember what helped you transition?
I think the pivot point was when I read A Happy Pocket Full of Money. And that was the first money book that I read that I went, oh my gosh, I've really been looking at money totally different. Like I need to really change my relationship with money. And then I followed that up with The Psychology of Money, which was like, those two together, I was like, wow, okay. Like this is fun. And that was I think the biggest shift for me was that, I used to kind of dread finances because I was like, oh, it's boring, it's numbers. I was never a math person. But it almost has become a game now. It's like when I look at pricing, I'm like, okay, if I charge this much and then I can make that much, and then and I've kind of like gamified pricing and money, and how I set my prices and things like that. And again, I also recognize too, there's a lot of energy exchange in money. And so like the actual figure doesn't matter as much as the energy behind it. And so it is, it's way deeper than just like, oh, this is what I'm going to charge. Obviously, there's like, you can look at like industry averages, you can look at, what other competitors are charging and things like that, and kind of get a baseline. But there's also, what is the energy behind it? When I say this number, do I feel confident? I remember when I first started coaching, the very first time I charged for coaching, I charged $300 for a 3-month program. I didn't know what I was doing. And I remember saying that and quivering because I was like, is anybody going to pay me $300 for this? Like, it was so unbelievable. And I remember there was other coaches who had been in the industry longer than me, and they were like, yeah, I charge like 10 grand for my packages. And I was like, 10
What?
grand? Oh my gosh. Like I couldn't even fathom 10 grand. And now through the work that I've done, I'm now finally imagining, okay, when am I going to sell the $50,000 package?
Mm-hmm.
That's growth.
Yes, a lot of growth for sure. I love it. To me, it was when I read "You're a Badass at Making Money."
Mm,
That was my
that's
pivot.
another good one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was my pivot point book when it comes to the money mentality and changing. So I remember I bought several copies and I gave it to a bunch of people. I'm like, you need to read this thing. This is amazing. So we'll link all the books for you guys too in the show notes. That's great. So you talked about the importance of working in yourself before you achieve your own business success, which is 100% how I think of things too. Can you elaborate a little bit more on some aspects of developing that entrepreneur mindset and why is it so crucial?
I think when it comes to developing the entrepreneurial mindset, to me, at least this has been my journey, it's a slow growth. It's a slow gain. Like, I think sometimes you hear people on podcasts and they talk about how I went from this to this, and people are like, how do I even get started with that? And it's I've been on my personal development journey since I was 17. I am now 30. I set out at 17 to find the career that was going to make my heart sing. I did a whole bunch of identity work, belief work. I called myself for the longest time a personal self-help junkie because I just was consuming every book, every podcast, every recording out there, trying to find the answers to success, trying to be like, how can I be the most successful person possible? And what I realized through this journey was it all comes back to you. It all comes back to getting into alignment with yourself and asking yourself, what does it mean to me to be successful? Because every single person out there in the world has their own definition of success. And so I think when we talk about developing the entrepreneurial mindset, you have to actually go look in the mirror and you say, okay, what type of entrepreneur do I want to be? What does that even look like to me? So it's like, again, it starts with the inner work, and then you start to do the outer work, which is, developing the habits, developing, like learning systems that work for you, and like breaking out of the 9 to 5 mentality. This is a big one because most of us who are making this transition into the entrepreneurial world, we're used to working 9 to 5. But then as an entrepreneur, you're now working like 5 p.m. to 11 p.m., at night, like in the after hours, in your side hustle here. And you have to change your relationship with work. And you have to look at, to me, I actually don't feel like I work any days anymore because I'm so aligned with my passion. I'm so aligned with the things that I love to do that I don't feel like I work. Everybody tells me, Tyler, you work too much. You need to have better work-life boundaries. And I said, no, I have the perfect boundaries. Like, this is my passion. This is what I love to do. And like, those are the things that you have to define for yourself. You have to go inward and ask yourself, what does it mean to me to be an entrepreneur? What does that vision of life look like? What am I working towards? What is the bigger goal? And then you start to do the little habit changes, the little actions every single day. I say success is 3-dimensional. It takes determination, dedication, and discipline. Determination, dedication, and discipline. This is an every single day type of thing. We get up every single day and we have a choice to make. And every day we have to make the choice over and over again to work on the business, to work on our craft, And here's the thing. In the beginning, I don't believe you have to work like 20 hours a day. Like everybody's screaming now. It's like hustle, hustle, hustle. You do have to hustle. There is hustle in this, but there also needs to be heart in the hustle. There needs to be alignment. And if you find that alignment, you can work 20 hours a day and not feel like you're working 20 hours a day. But it takes the alignment. And I'm always going to come back to alignment. And I'm going to come back to, what is your definition of success? What is your vision as an entrepreneur? What do you want to create? Get clear on that and then go take the actions to get there.
So you talk about your coaching style. You describe it as a fusion of masculine doing and feminine being. So how do you balance these energies in your coaching, and why do you believe that this balance is important for your clients?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I consider myself, like, personally, like I consider myself to be like gender queer, gender fluid. Like part of my coming out journey was defining my sexuality and sexual identity and all of these kind of things. And, I've always had more of a non-binary viewpoint of life. Mm-hmm. And that trickled into my coaching, which was surprising because I find that a lot of like business coaching is very masculine. They're very focused on, this is what you need to do. This is the action you need to take. It's a lot of strategy. But with the strategy, as I've said a lot on today's episode already, there's got to be the soul. There's got to be the alignment. There's got to be the inner connection. And so it's really important when you're doing this work that you're finding that balance between alignment and action. And that's where my fusion comes into play is, when I work with clients, yes, we have action plans. Yes, we have like the traditional, this is what we're going to do, and this is, where you're going to go. But we also take the time to go inwards and create that alignment because, y'all, the alignment is only going to make the action so much easier. And so that's why, that's how I kind of created my coaching style, is to find that balance between, action and alignment. And that's why I call it this nice fusion.
Yes, I love that. Very cool. 100%. I feel like there's all the training, like the actual hardcore training when it comes to business, is definitely geared towards the masculine part of our population, and there's definitely a gap on teaching women in general how to be a business person. So that's a whole other conversation. But I love that you kind of bring aspects from both into your coaching. That's great. So, with a vast number of tools and programs available online, there's a lot of things out there. How do you help your clients kind of figure it out what is really beneficial for their growth versus what is maybe just another shiny object out there?
There's so many shiny objects out there. Like, I have actually clients now who will text me and they're like, should I buy this? I just happened yesterday. I had my client text me and she goes, should I buy this offer? And I asked her, I said, one, is it going to add value to your toolkit? Okay. I'm always thinking about, is this going to be another addition to my toolkit? For me, it's my coaching toolkit. For you, it might be your photographer's toolkit. Like, you have to sit there and say, okay, is this going to be a valuable tool to the toolkit? Most of us, we buy products because we think it's the ticket. We think it's going to be the answer that's going to skyrocket us to success. And a lot of the products online are products, they're tools. They're not the ticket to success. The ticket to success comes when you go beyond the product, when you go beyond, like, for example, I'm going to use in the coaching space, like, a lot of people are like, download my $1 million funnel formula, and if you implement this formula, it's going to, skyrocket your sales and all of these kind of things. And yeah, that can help you. That can definitely be one of the pieces that you're missing in your larger marketing puzzle. But again, you really need to master your messaging first. And that's why you have to think about, like, is this a tool? Is this a product? Or is this like a whole package? And so if you're ever looking for support in the business space, ask yourself that question. Am I just getting a tool, a product, or is this going to be a larger package, a larger program, a larger like investment? A lot of people are afraid to invest in their businesses. And this is why low ticket products are so successful, because it's really easy to drop $47, but it's really hard to drop $4,700. The total package is going to cost you $4,700 or more. But it's really easy to collect a bunch of these $47 packages and tools and things like that, and then be like, okay, I have all of these things. Now, what do I do with them?
Exactly.
So
Perfect. So is it taking you towards your goal? Is it going to add to your toolkit kind of thing? Perfect. So talking about that, you have an upcoming book, All the Places I've Actually Went, which I love the title too.
thank you.
It talks about a journey of discovery that goes beyond your traditional path. Can you give us a little sneak peek into some of the lessons that you talk about on the book?
Yeah, so that book is a compilation of my journey through my 20s, and it's based off of Dr. Seuss's "Oh, the Places You'll Go," which is what they read at every graduation. And as I was reflecting on my 20s, I realized life is not linear. Life is not a straight line. There's so many ebbs and flows to life, and there's so many there's so many moments in life that you don't anticipate coming. And so I think a big exploration of that book is how to handle the curveballs, the unexpecteds of life. And it's really important as entrepreneurs to recognize that life is going to throw you curveballs. I remember when I had just signed up for the coaching certification. I was in the program. I knew instantly, I was like, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. I'm going to be a coach. It was total certainty. And at the time I was living in Chicago, and I called my parents and I said, come pick me up. I said, I want to move back to Texas. I said, I want to go all in on this coaching business. Like, this is my career. This is my life. I'm ready to run. They came up. It was December. They picked me up at the end of 2018. I got home like a week before Christmas, celebrated the holidays, got into January, with the whole new year, new me kind of mentality. I was like, I'm going to go build the business. Like 4 days into January, my dad takes off in the middle of the night. He calls me 4 days later and he confesses and he goes, Tyler, I have to tell you, your mom and I, we are struggling with a crystal meth addiction. That was a curveball that I did not see coming on my path towards building out my coaching business. I had told the universe, I'm going all in. I'm going to go home. I'm moving home. I'm going to go build the business. And literally 4 days into 2019, I get hit with this massive curveball that completely derailed progress in my business. And, I talk about that story in the book because it's one of those stories where everybody experiences a curveball. Everybody experiences the unexpected. Like, I didn't know life was going to throw that at me. And as entrepreneurs, we have to be flexible when life throws us a curveball. I believe that when you do find your passion and you want to pursue your passion and you want to build out, the business, and you want, this is the career you're choosing to embark on, there's no end destination. There's no like, I have to be here by, 35. It's good to have those mile markers, but don't get so set in stone with that, because life is always going to throw you an unexpected curveball, and you have to be able to be hit by those curveballs sometimes and not let that affect kind of your courage, your confidence, and not let it affect your worth. Because I was miserable in 2019 having to navigate my parents' addictions. And, I was like, I just want to build a business. And here I am juggling all of these other things. And, but I learned to put it on pause, and I learned to say, you know what? I'm going to trust that this is going to evolve exactly how it needs to evolve. So I talk a lot about that. I talk a lot about like surrender and faith and developing that higher spiritual practice, because these are all of the, I think, keys that we need in order to succeed in this kind of space.
Beautiful. I'm excited to let us know when it comes out for sure. We'll talk about it on the podcast. So finally, as someone who has navigated the heights and lows of entrepreneurship, what is the one piece of advice that you find yourself giving consistently to your clients that are just starting out?
The one piece of advice that I'm always telling any entrepreneur is, don't compare your chapter 1 to someone's chapter 21. And everyone starts from zero. Everybody starts from nothing. And your journey is going to take however long it is meant to take. This is like, you are not competing against the people around you. You are competing against yourself every single day. And so letting go of that external competition and focusing in on, how am I getting better every single day? Like, that's how you're going to win the entrepreneurial race.
Love it. So good. So I've been asking all the guests this new question that I didn't tell you ahead of time. So that's your curveball for today. So in this journey of going from an accidental CEO to an intentional boss and having your business, obviously part of this journey is learning from failure. We all going to have them. We all need them. So, what was a big failure that happened in your journey that became a lesson learned, like a big lesson for you in this entrepreneurship journey?
I think the biggest failure was when I gave up, which I talked a little bit about it earlier. I gave up on my business. I gave up and said, I can't do this right now. I need to get more experience. It was that whole imposter syndrome confidence thing. And I gave up. I am not afraid to say that I gave up and that I stopped for a little bit. And what I learned through giving up is there's never going to be a moment when you feel truly ready to do this. There's never going to be a like you're never going to reach that, like, yes, I can finally go succeed in this business. There's always going to be doubt. There's always going to be fear. There's always going to be insecurity. But I think, through this journey, what I've realized is, we can't get rid of the fear. We can't get rid of the doubt. We can't get rid of the insecurities, but we can learn how to walk alongside them versus letting them lead. And I think back then I was letting the fear, the doubt, and the insecurity lead, which is why I gave up. And now they walk right next to me, and I am in control. That was I think the biggest shift for me there.
Very good. Tyler, tell everybody where can they find you if they want to work with you or learn more about what you offer.
Yep. So you can find me. I'm on Instagram at the Live Bigger Coach. And then my personal website, which is lifecoachtyler.com. Those are like the two best places to connect with me.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Tyler. This was an amazing conversation. I really appreciate your sharing a lot of your personal story and journey with us, as well as some amazing coaching, business advice. So it was a pleasure to have you. I hope you guys have enjoyed, and I can't wait to see you guys next week in our next episode of the Accidental CEO podcast. Bye, everyone. And that's a wrap for today's episode of the Accidental CEO podcast. Thanks for hanging out with us in the world where creativity and business strategy collide. I am Nada Salvatore, thrilled to have shared this time with you. Remember, every episode is a step closer to mastering the art of being an accidental CEO. So don't miss out. Hit subscribe, drop us a sweet review, and spread the word to your creative tribe. Your next big breakthrough could be just one episode away. Join us next time for more insights, laughs, and actionable tips. Keep pushing boundaries, dreaming big, and embracing the beautiful chaos of entrepreneurship. Here's to make magic happen in your business and beyond.